qualifying for the World Cup for the first time since 1998.
I didn't realise you were all Scottish MPs.
Mr. Speaker, they qualified with fantastic goals, including a cracker from former Arsenal player Kieran Tierney, who was always a great favourite with the fans. Mr. Speaker, my thoughts are with the communities across the country affected by severe flooding, particularly in Monmouthshire. I've been liaising with the First Minister of Wales and want to thank all our emergency services for their response. Mr. Speaker, my thoughts are also with the family and loved one of Royal Fleet Auxiliary member James Elliott, who has sadly been lost. I know the contribution that personnel of the Royal Fleet Auxiliary make and the risks that they take in the line of duty. My thoughts, and I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House, are with those who knew him at this tragic and difficult time for them. Mr. Speaker, last Thursday I visited Anglesey to announce the construction of the country's first small modular reactor. That's the biggest investment in North Wales in a generation, creating more than 6,000 jobs. On Monday, we introduced the largest overhaul of the asylum policy in modern times, restoring control, fairness and creating safe and legal routes. And today I'm pleased to announce that inflation is coming down. There's more to do, but it's an important step. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Mr. Speaker, many of us are becoming concerned that technical or procedural manoeuvres outside of this House may be used to prevent Parliament reaching a decision on the terminally ill adults bill. Now, the government is neutral on the bill itself, but I presume it's not neutral on the issue of democracy or the primacy of this chamber. So could the Prime Minister please reassure the House that the decision of elected members and indeed the wishes and hopes of the vast majority of the people we serve will not be frustrated in this way?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for his question? I know he feels strongly about this issue. As he says, the government is neutral on the passage of the bill. It is a matter of conscience, and there are different and respected views across Parliament, and it is for Parliament to decide in the end on any changes in this chamber. Scrutiny of the bill in the Lords is a matter for the Lords, but the government does have a responsibility to make sure that any legislation which passes through Parliament is workable, is effective, and of course enforceable.
John Trickett.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. And the party opposite in government said that they would level up the country, but in fact they left the country divided. Austerity, deindustrialisation, stagnant wages, all took the heart, ripped the heart out of mining communities like the ones I represent. Everywhere you can see the legacy which the party opposite left. And how can it be right that the hard-working, loyal people in my constituency earn £400 a week or £20,000 a year less than people who live in Kensington? So will the Prime Minister now declare that it is the government's moral purpose to eliminate economic injustice, starting with the budget next week, announcing massive investment in the north and wherever else poverty and low pay raising its head?
Well, can I thank you for raising this important issue, because they laugh, but working people paid a very heavy price for 14 years of economic failure. Austerity damaged the economy and decimated public services. The botched Brexit deal stifled growth, and the reckless borrowing on the mini-budget saw mortgages and the cost of living soar. He's right to raise this issue. We're determined to tackle inequality. He'll be pleased to know that under this government wages are up, but we need to do more. We've had a pay increase for the 3.5 million lowest paid, and the Chancellor will deliver a budget based on Labour values.
Kevin Payne, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate our side of the House with the remarks the Prime Minister made about James Elliott? Can the Prime Minister tell us why his government is the first government in history to float increasing income tax rates only to then U-turn on it all after the actual budget?
I'll inform you the budget's actually next week rather than after the budget. We've only got 1 week to go. But I can tell her it'll be a Labour budget, Mr. Speaker, with Labour values. That means we will concentrate on cutting NHS waiting lists, cutting debt, and cutting the cost of living. And because of the decisions we've already made, inflation is down this morning. The Bank of England have upgraded growth. We've got a record £230 billion of investment into this country under this government.
Mr. Speaker, he says the budget is next week, but we read all about it in the papers. This is the first budget to unravel before it's even been delivered. The Chancellor's cluelessness, I'm afraid, is damaging the economy now. The Prime Minister needs to end this shambles. So can he confirm today that he won't break another promise by freezing income tax thresholds?
Mr. Speaker, the budget is 1 week today and we will lay out our plans. But what we won't do, Mr. Speaker, I've said what we will do in terms of protecting the NHS and public services. What we won't do is inflict austerity on the country as they did. Cause huge. What we won't do is inflict a borrowing spree like Liz Truss did, also inflicted huge damage. Mr. Speaker, have they learnt anything? She's apparently got a golden economic rule, I think. So it's a very important rule, this golden rule. There's this £47 billion of cuts with no detail. No wonder the Institute of Government says they're on very shaky foundations. They haven't listened and they haven't learned.
Mr. Speaker, it is quite clear that they are going to freeze thresholds. We didn't get a clear answer from them, but this is really important. Because in her budget speech last year, the Chancellor said, and I quote, "I am keeping every single promise on tax that I made in our manifesto. So there will be no extension of the freeze in income tax and national insurance thresholds." Why was freezing thresholds a breach of the manifesto last year, but it isn't this year?
Mr. Speaker, every week she comes along and speculates and distorts. Last year, Mr. Speaker, last year they predicted recession. And what did we get? The fastest growing economy in the G7 in the first half of the year. They opposed NHS investment. And what did we get? 5 million extra appointments in the first year of a Labour government. They tried growing the economy with millions on NHS waiting lists, with our schools crumbling and holes in our road. It didn't work. What do they want to do now? Go back to the same failed experiment.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about speculation. The only people who've been speculating are his government every single day for the last 3 months. And he mentioned inflation in his last answer. Inflation has nearly doubled since they came into office. He wants a round of applause because it's come down a little bit. I will remind him that food inflation is up 4.9%. That is making life miserable for all of those people out there. But let's go back to thresholds because this is important. When the Chancellor made that promise to unfreeze the thresholds, it wasn't an off-the-cuff comment. She said it on the floor of this House in her budget speech. That was a deliberate statement of government policy. So if she breaks such a clear promise, how can the public trust the word that she says next week?
Mr. Speaker, she talks about inflation. It went to 11% on that. 11%. And the country is still paying the price. Inflation is down this morning, wages are up, and we've had 5 interest rate cuts, and that's because our fiscal rules are ironclad. And the Leader of the Opposition and the party opposition have no credibility on the economy. She was Treasury Minister during the worst decline in living standards on record. And she said that Liz Truss got the mini-budget 100% right. Not much room for flexibility there. 100%, that's pretty full marks, Mr. Speaker. She might want to tell us if that's still her position, 100% right for Liz Truss.
Mr. Speaker.
Not long ago, I introduced Claude Note, a powerful AI-enabled meeting assistant, and today we're excited to have in hand Claude's latest upgraded version. Is this a platinum credit card? Nope. It's Claude Note Pro, your updated AI-powered meeting assistant. With 4 built-in microphones, Claude Note captures everything and records crystal clear audio up to 5 meters away. But it's more than a recorder. Take photos, jot ideas, mark highlights, and during key discussions, if I press the button just right here, it instantly saves 30 seconds of key audio as a highlight. I never miss important details. And you've got 50 hours non-stop recording on Note Pro, or 60 hours on standby. There's a smart display showing battery life, recording status and file transfers, so you always know what's going on. Then Plord turns it into structured notes, summaries, insights, to-dos, even analysis of power dynamics in the room. And with Ask Plord, your contextual AI assistant, you can draft emails, extract data, brainstorm, or find anything across past meetings. And you're safe knowing that your data is yours and completely private. Click the link in the video description to pre-order your Plord Note Pro. And if you'd like to experience Plord Intelligence even earlier, I've got a special offer for you. Use the code GB20 when ordering Plord Note and get 20% off.
I was Treasury Minister at the height of the pandemic. We cleaned up that mess. Maybe he could clean up some of his own mess. And I'm going to repeat what the Chancellor said, because it's quite clear that the whole front bench has forgotten. She said, "I have come to the conclusion that extending the threshold freeze would hurt working people. It would take more money out of their pay slips, and yet that's what they're planning to do next week." And all of this speculation is having real-world consequences. Just this morning, the UK chair of ExxonMobil said, and I quote, "The government needs to understand that the whole industrial base of the UK is at risk unless they wake up and realise the damage their economic policies are doing." Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister tell us, is the loss of UK industry the price the country has to pay for having a clueless Chancellor?
Mr. Speaker, let me just say about ExxonMobil, it is a difficult time for the workforce there, and we must focus on supporting them. We've been meeting the company for over 6 months and explored every possible reasonable avenue. They've been facing losses for the last 5 years. It's best to do the detail before you chunter. And they're currently losing £1 million a week. But she talks about policy and approach. On energy policy, she follows reform. On the European Convention, she follows the man who wants her job. And when her shadow minister said we should deport people lawfully here to achieve cultural coherence, she pretended that it didn't happen. I could go on. She was the trade secretary that didn't sign any trade deals. Cheerleader for the mini budget, cheerleader for open borders, and when they were crashing the economy, botching Brexit and running down the NHS, she was right at the centre. She hasn't got an ounce of credibility.
Mr. Speaker, on energy policy, what we are doing is listening to industry. What happened, I had a round table.
Mr. Slinger, please. We don't want to have to sling you out.
Speaker, just this morning, we heard from the chair of one of the largest energy companies. Last week, I had a roundtable with energy companies, and what they had to say about this Prime Minister and his energy secretary is unprintable. They are absolutely furious. Our oil and gas industry is dying, and he's standing there saying he had meetings. People out there are struggling, Mr. Speaker. The budget chaos is causing real anxiety. People aren't buying houses, businesses aren't hiring, and they are cancelling investment decisions. 2 weeks ago, the Chancellor called a ridiculous press conference to blame everyone else for her having to raise income tax. Then last week, she U-turned on her own U-turn. Instead, we can see they're planning to freeze income tax thresholds, something she said last year would be a breach of their manifesto. They are making it up as they go along. Doesn't the country deserve better than government by guesswork?
Speaker, either we renew our country with Labour or we go back to austerity 2.0 with reform of the Tories. They left waiting lists at record highs, almost 1 million more children in poverty, and they wrecked our public services. She comes here to talk down the country. We're turning the page. More NHS appointments, free breakfast clubs, free childcare, more homes and better public services. That's what we're fighting for, a Britain built for all.
Lord Hatton.
Mr. Speaker, standing in the heart of Weymouth, the Rectory is an iconic building, formerly a theatre, once a bustling cinema, and then a popular pub as well. And yet for more than a decade, this building has stood empty. We want to turn this building into a thriving centre for arts and culture, hosting exhibitions and celebrating everything that makes Weymouth unique. So will the Prime Minister work with me and all the key players on the ground to revitalise the rectory and reopen this fantastic building for our town?
Prime Minister.
Well, my honourable friend is a brilliant champion for South Dorset, and he's right to champion revitalising our high streets. The Minister for Heritage would be delighted to discuss how we can get this iconic building reopened as he wants. I'm pleased that Weymouth secured £20 million in Pride in Place funding, giving his community the power and resources to make a real difference to people's lives.
Sir David, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's opening remarks? Can I also join with him in congratulating Scotland on their amazing win against Denmark and wish them well in the World Cup? And can I also say I hope Wales soon qualifies to join England and Scotland? But Mr. Speaker, every year there are more than 300 suicides related to problem gambling. It affects hundreds of thousands of families, tearing them apart. Meanwhile, online gambling firms are taking in record revenues of over £7 billion a year. Now, ITV News are reporting that one of them, Sky Bet, is moving its headquarters to Malta so it can save tens of millions of pounds in corporation tax. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that it's time that we tax them on their UK profits so these online gambling firms don't escape wherever they are registered for tax?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I join him on wishing Wales well and Northern Ireland? I'd like to see all four nations in the finals. But look, he raises the really important issue of suicide, and it's Men's Health Day, and it is really important. And I think the whole House would want to work together on anything that can prevent suicide. I think if all of us think about individuals we may know who lost their lives through suicide, it's something that touches almost every one of us and all of our families as well. We will of course look at the link between suicide and gambling and take whatever measures we can to reduce suicide. It's a very important issue.
Sir David.
For his reply, and we look forward to the government coming forward with action on that. On another domestic matter, Mr. Speaker, next to the River Cherwell in Oxfordshire, a field is now covered in an enormous mound of rubbish, 150 metres long and up to 12 metres high. The water is now lapping against the waste and carrying it into the river. It's just one of many sites, Mr. Speaker, where organised criminal gangs are illegally dumping their waste onto our countryside and getting away with it. This is a shocking environmental emergency. So will he instruct the Environment Agency to clean it up now?
Firstly, these are utterly appalling scenes. Utterly appalling. A criminal investigation, as he knows, is underway, and specialist officers are tracking down those responsible. The Environmental Agency, in answer to his question, will use all available powers to make sure that the perpetrators cover the cost of the clean-up, which must now follow. We have boosted the Environment Agency's budget for tackling waste crime by 50%, given councils new powers to seize and crush fly tippers' vehicles, and lawbreakers can now face up to 5 years in jail.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Immigration is the #1 issue on doorsteps of Bristol North East. Most people will ask me about it. They want a firm, but also a fair approach, but have been let down over many years. Controlling our borders and knowing who comes is essential, not least to integration. Mr. Speaker, what can the Prime Minister say to my constituents in Bristol North East that will give them assurance that the reforms that the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary are proposing, which I support, will be firm, but will also be fair?
Prime Minister.
I'm proud, Mr. Speaker, to lead an open, tolerant, generous country. To maintain that principle, we must restore order and control, fix the utterly broken system left by the party opposite, and end the division that others seek to exploit. That does include creating safe and legal routes, recognising those who contribute, integrate and strengthen our society, while at the same time reducing illegal arrivals and removing those with no right to be here. That is a fair, progressive system that meets modern challenges.
Jim Allister.
Mr. Speaker, the governments of France, Germany and the United States have all extracted from Libya compensation for their citizens who were affected by Gaddafi-led terrorism across the world. Why, Prime Minister, is the British government continuing to fail United Kingdom citizens who suffered to a huge extent through the importation of arms and, in particular, the tons of Semtex that Gaddafi supplied to the IRA, giving rise to Enniskillen, to Warrington, to the Baltic Exchange and multiple others? Why is no compensation being extracted from Libya for our citizens when it can be done for others? And will the Prime Minister at least meet representatives of the almost forgotten but still campaigning families for those affected by Gaddafi's terrorism?
Well, Prime Minister. So many suffer from Gaddafi, and he's absolutely right to raise this really serious issue, and we're working hard on it. I'll absolutely make sure that the meeting he asks for is set up with the relevant minister so that we can give the full position and take on board what they have to say.
Luke Charters.
On International Men's Day and in the spirit of Movember, I want to be open about my own past mental health challenges in the hope that it might encourage other men to do the same. And during the traumatic birth of my first son, I nearly lost my wife, and a dark cloud settled over me. A cloud lifted through conversation and support, and through the safe arrival of my second son, and bright days lie ahead. I'm joined in the gallery today by Mike from York Menfulness, a fantastic charity giving men a place to talk. So will the Prime Minister, as a dad himself, agree with me that strength as a man means being open about our emotions, and that we should never face into challenges on our own?
Brilliant.
Can I thank him for his honesty? It's never easy to stand up and say what he's just said, and I hope he understands just how important that is for others who will be suffering, who will be inspired to be able to talk openly about their experiences and importantly get the help that they need. I'm really proud to publish the first ever men's health strategy today to tackle challenges that disproportionately affect men, including certain cancers and suicide, which is tragically the biggest killer of those men under 50. So we will invest millions in helping more men access mental health support, better care for former minors, and rolling out at-home blood tests to tackle prostate cancer. But I do thank him for speaking out. I think it's so important, it's so brave. It's been done across the House. This isn't a party political issue, but it's always very powerful when it's done, and it's a model for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the government's desire to improve educational outcomes and the well-being of our children, it is ignoring the elephant in the room. This morning I hosted a really powerful round table with 3 secondary head teachers who spoke about the transformational effect that a complete ban on smartphones in their schools had had. Improved behaviour, increased focus, far fewer safeguarding issues, and most importantly, happier children. But for them it has been really hard won, and it's sunk a huge amount of time. So will the Prime Minister tell me and the thousands of head teachers out there who are crying out for this change why his government won't back them with a ban on smartphones in schools?
Prime Minister.
I thank her for a question. It's a really important question. I've got teenage children in secondary school, and I know it's an issue of concern to parents and teachers. The reality of the statistics are that the vast majority of schools already ban smartphones at school. They allow children to bring their phones to schools, but they ban them in school time in lessons. Of course, we will always keep this under review. We've got to take steps that will be effective. I agree with the sentiment of what she's putting to me. We need to deal with it effectively.
Andrew Pegs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the worst legacies of the last Conservative government was the collapse in apprenticeships for young people in places such as Peterborough, shutting a generation out of opportunity. Mr. Speaker, my city is determined to turn that around, with places like Peterborough College, like many of our colleges, leading the charge. Whilst I welcome the government's reform, I still speak to too many young people who can't access the training they need to rebuild Britain. Will the Prime Minister set out what more we can do together to ensure Peterborough's young people get the good jobs and apprenticeships they deserve?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him. His dedicated campaign means Peterborough has one of the first youth guarantee pilots in the country. Mr. Speaker, we inherited an awful situation where almost 1 million young people were not earning or learning. We refuse to accept that. That's why we're delivering the new youth guarantee, investing a record £3 billion into apprenticeships and increasing the national minimum wage for 16 to 20-year-olds. The Reform and the Tories say the minimum wage is too high. They're totally wrong. We're going to focus on every young person to give them the chance to succeed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whilst the Labour front bench continue to peddle their own form of dog whistle politics, Reform UK... Reform UK are cracking on with the day job. Our reform-led councils are reform...
Can I just say, you might say it's the way he tells them, but it might be worse. It's the way I tell them. Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our reform-led councils have already identified savings of over £330 million in the first 6 months. And the Prime Minister may shake his head propped up by these gullible backbenchers, but here's the challenge. Will he guarantee, will he ensure that all the cancelled elections from this year and the proposed local elections for next year will go ahead in May 2026? Go on, be a man.
I didn't realise this was quite so good at stand-up comedy. Mr. Speaker, he talks about dog whistle. Last week, his leader said he didn't have time to condemn the racist comments of his fellow MP for Runcorn. He also said he didn't have time to condemn his party calling children in care evil. He didn't have time. I wonder if he can ask his leader next door to him whether he's got time for his explanation for the stories in today's papers.